My name is Cleopatra Philopata. Yes, that Cleopatra. You've heard the stories, I know. The temptress, the queen who brought empires to their knees. But most of what you've heard is myth. Let me tell you who I really was. I was born in Alexandria, the brightest jewel of the ancient world. My family, the Ptolemies, weren't even Egyptian by blood, we were Greek. Foreigners who had ruled Egypt for centuries. But I was different. I loved this land. I learned to speak the Egyptian language, the first of my dynasty to do so. I listened to the songs of the Nile, to the people who lived by its waters. They didn't see a goddess or a queen. They saw someone who cared. My father, Ptolemy XII, was a man torn between debts and politics. He owed Rome more than any king should, and that debt was a shadow that followed me my whole life. When he died, I was only 18. The throne was mine. But not mine alone. I had to rule with my little brother. He was a boy, but the men around him were wolves in fine robes. They didn't want a queen, they wanted a puppet they could control. As tradition demanded, I married him. A political union, not love. But even marriage couldn't protect me. Soon I was pushed out, exiled from my own palace. The soldiers turned their backs on me. The same city that once bowed before me now pretended I didn't exist. But exile teaches you things. It teaches you who you are when you have nothing left. And I decided I wasn't done yet. Then came the news. A Roman general had arrived in Alexandria, the most powerful man in the world. And I knew in that moment my story was far from over. That was the beginning of everything. I had myself carefully wrapped inside a large, luxurious carpet. The threads gleamed under the sunlight, the gold and red patterns meant for a gift, not a hidden queen. A few loyal servants carried me silently through the palace corridors. The guards thought they were moving a gift for the Roman general. They didn't suspect that I was inside. Then the carpet was unrolled, and there I was. He looked at me, not with curiosity, not with surprise, but with recognition. For the first time since my exile, I felt seen, not as a girl, not as a pawn, but as Cleopatra. I could sense the respect in his gaze, the understanding that I was clever, bold, and unafraid. From that moment, everything changed. An alliance was formed, not through charm, not flattery, but through cunning and decisiveness. We planned together, negotiated together, moved the pieces of power with precision. The man who commanded empires recognized my mind, my strategy, my will. But politics never sleeps. I still had enemies, my brother, my advisors, the men who wished to see me fail. All of them were lurking in the shadows, plotting, waiting for a single mistake. I learned to navigate that dangerous court, speaking only when it mattered, watching every gesture, every whisper, every glance. I also learned the power of allure, not for submission, but for influence. I understood how to use beauty, language, and presence to turn doubt into trust. And soon, the city began to see that the throne wasn't mine by inheritance alone. It was mine because I had earned it, fought for it, and dared to be more than anyone expected. Even my alliances weren't simple. Rome wanted control. I wanted Egypt. We danced a dangerous game. Politics, war, love, and betrayal intertwined. And yes, passion was never absent. I was drawn to him as he was to me, a meeting of minds, a collision of ambition. But I never let desire cloud judgment. Every move was calculated, every word measured. I reclaimed the palace, neutralized my enemies, and showed the people of Alexandria that I was the ruler, not a figurehead. From exile to power, from whispers to commands, every step was deliberate. And by the end, I stood not just as a queen of Egypt, but as a woman who had changed the course of history. This was no longer survival, this was empire. And yet, the threats never ended. War loomed on the borders, Rome demanded attention. I had to navigate diplomacy, military strategy, and court intrigue simultaneously. Among all this, alliances and tensions with Rome grew. There were whispers of romance, yes, but I never allowed personal feelings to dictate my political decisions. Every alliance was a calculated move. Every action was meant to secure Egypt's independence and power. By the end of these years, I had transformed from the exiled young woman into a ruler who commanded respect, both at home and abroad. I wasn't just surviving, I was shaping history. After Caesar came into my life, everything moved fast. My brother's advisors couldn't stand the idea of me being close to him. They wanted me gone again, and this time for good. The city turned into a battlefield. Streets that once held parades now echoed with the clash of swords. My people fought to defend me. The palace burned. The air was filled with smoke and fear. Caesar stayed. He didn't leave Egypt, not until the fighting ended. Together we took back the city. My brother tried to flee across the Nile, but fate had other plans. He drowned before he could escape. And when the smoke finally cleared, I stood alone, as queen. I was still young, but I had learned more than most rulers ever do. Rome respected me now, or at least they had to. Caesar and I became more than allies. He saw my strength, and I saw opportunity. Together we rebuilt Egypt. Trade returned, temples reopened, the Nile flowed with life again. We ruled side by side, partners in power and in purpose. Rome, however, would never accept it. He already had a wife there, and their laws forbade any union with a foreign queen. So no official vows were spoken, but our connection was undeniable. It was political, it was personal, and it changed the balance between Rome and Egypt. From that bond came a son, Caesarion. For me, he represented legacy and hope, a bridge between two worlds, born from both power and defiance. When my son was born, peace didn't last long. Caesar returned to Rome, and I followed. They called me the foreign queen, whispered that I had bewitched him. But I didn't care. I walked through their city with my head held high. Caesar showed me off proudly. He built statues of me, even temples. But the Romans, they feared what I represented. A woman with power, a queen with influence over their greatest leader, and fear always leads to blood. One morning, word came. Caesar was dead, stabbed in the Senate by the very men who called themselves his allies. The news spread like wildfire. The city roared with chaos, and I knew everything had changed. I didn't cry. I couldn't. I gathered what remained of my dignity, my son and my guards, and I left Rome behind. By the time we reached Alexandria, I was no longer the same woman who had followed him there. I had lost a partner, but I had gained something else. clarity. The world of men had tried to use me, shape me, and discard me, but I wasn't done. If Caesar was gone, I would find another way to protect Egypt and my son's future. After Caesar died, Rome was in chaos. I knew Egypt needed strong allies to survive. Then I met him, Mark Antony. At first it was all politics. He was a Roman general, experienced, confident, and strong. I had to show him that I was not a pawn, that I was a ruler who had survived exile, betrayal, and war. We met in private rooms away from prying eyes. I explained my plans, my strategy, my vision for Egypt. He listened. He challenged me. He respected skill and intelligence, not age or title. That respect grew into trust. As we spent more time together, I realized I was drawn to him. It wasn't just politics. I admired his courage, his mind, and his decisiveness. And I think he saw the same in me. Someone who would not be ignored, someone who could match him in strategy and ambition. There were moments when I felt something more, fleeting touches, quiet glances, conversations that lingered late into the night. Every plan we made, every political move, carried the weight of Egypt's future. And yet, there was always that unspoken thread between us. A bond that made the challenges bearable, that made strategy feel personal. I knew I had to remain focused, but I also knew that this connection, whatever it was, had changed me. It gave me strength, clarity, and courage. Together we could protect Egypt, face our enemies, and shape the course of history. And I could not deny that. For the first time in a long while, I felt understood, fully, completely, by someone who could meet me as an equal. Even as Mark Antony and I built our bond, Egypt faced constant threats. Rome was unstable, and many in the Senate and military sought to take advantage of our kingdom. Sometimes our strategies involved risks that could have cost us everything. The alliance with Antony strengthened Egypt, but Rome remained a looming threat. Octavian, Caesar's heir, was determined to bring all of Egypt under his control. War was inevitable. Antony and I faced the Roman forces at Actium. The battle was fierce. Ships burned, soldiers fell, and the tides of fate shifted against us. Despite strategy and courage, Antony's forces were overwhelmed. When news of Antony's defeat reached me, and later his death, grief hit me like a wave. I was left alone to face Octavian. I refused to surrender. To protect Egypt and preserve what remained of my legacy, I made the ultimate decision. Using the venomous asp, I ended my life. On my terms, as a queen, as a woman who would not be paraded or humiliated. My son Caesarion survived briefly, but could not hold the throne against Rome. Egypt became a province, yet my story, my name, and my legend endured. Even in death, I had shaped history. I was Cleopatra, not just a queen, but a symbol of resilience, intelligence, and power that would never be forgotten.